All right, very good. Thank you, Stella, for joining. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. So it's going to be another exciting event on CRM COE, CRM Talent Development. So we are going to have a very informal chat between Stella and myself about the challenges that are faced by the hiring managers and the COE leaders. So I just wanted to welcome Stella again. Stella, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. It's great to discuss this important topic and very relevant and timely one. I am Stella Michael. I'm the director for CRM platforms at Spectrum Health. It's an integrated healthcare system here in Michigan. I'm based in Grand Rapids.
Thank you, Stella. So we will get to the presentation or the discussion right there. And before we do that, let's quickly review what we are going to discuss today. The topic is very relevant for the market, as Stella said. Let's quickly review the current landscape of the talent, CRM talent, demand and supply. And once you understand, very high level, we will also talk about hire, train, retain, and how do you grow the employees or your team within the company. So that's the topic for us, and this is very high level. Once again, we have only an hour left, so we will not be going too deep. And if you have any questions, you are welcome to reach out to me or Stella. We will be happy to share our knowledge with you. So now, when we look at the talent in talent pipeline, demand and supply, so we reviewed a report from 10K Advisors. So they produce every year a report on CRM talent, demand and supply. So I encourage everybody to go look at the website 10kview.com, and you will be able to see the report. But right now, just for our discussion purpose, so we highlighted some of them, and specifically the demand for CRM talent grew 29% in 2021 compared to 2020. And then the demand is growing globally. So as you see here, there is a lot of numbers here. So I'm not going to go through everything, but I just wanted to get your thoughts, Stella, in terms of what do you see in the market? This is a report, but in your part of the world, when you hire people, when you talk to your folks and peers in the market, what do you see?
Yeah, I think what I'm seeing is definitely the demand is growing. You can tell that it is one of the niche expertise that a lot of the organizations are seeking as they start to build their CRM systems. And you can also say that the pandemic has changed the perspectives of leading and driving digital innovation, and CRM is in the center of it. So you can naturally see that with Salesforce being one of the highest and leaders, highest performing and top leaders in the CRM space, there has been a lot of demand. With that also comes additional challenges in terms of if you're in a local market and you had few people, now because of everyone opening it up for remote, you're also seeing that talent is being pulled by other markets. And so I think there's been that tough challenge for smaller local markets, especially like in West Michigan, to compete with the remote markets elsewhere. And I think the other one is that people are stepping out and starting, and you can see as we review the report, are starting to go ahead and learn more. You can see the interest and growth in the admin certification courses. You can also see that people, even who are earlier in their stages of, Salesforce, developers are now trying to build their careers towards architects. So I think there is both supply and there is also interest in the demand side, and it'll be interesting to see where we go. You can see, especially in the last bullet point right there, that the demand is up by 364%, and that's like an insane increase in demand. We'll just have to wait and watch how much our newer employees and the newer generations that are coming into the market will be quick to learn and adapt to that demand.
Well, I hear you what you're saying, Stella. The challenge that I am facing, especially when we hire people or when we are in a big hiring, our growth sprout, you call it, where the demand is there, supply is there, but what it is that the CRM talent is unlike. They are neither technical nor business. They need to have both. And it's having that kind of attitude and the mindset is the biggest challenge that I am facing in the market when we hire people. Oh, I'm an admin. No. You are an admin, which is okay. But how do you make a difference as an admin for the growth of the company or servicing the members and the servicing the customers or even doing whatever you do with your Salesforce platform, so that the learning technology is not the only thing that we need to understand. We even need to understand the business side. So the demand is, I don't know whether it is a truly 364% growth, but I think the companies are struggling to find the right talent, which will help them to transform their business. That may be the reason why the demand is skyrocketing, because we are unable to fulfill the roles. There are more roles than the supply. So maybe the statistic says there is a lot of demand, but maybe there are people available, but we are unable to either hire them properly or we don't have some other challenges. I don't know. So but it's good statistics.
Yep.
And then, so even if you look at this, the slides, once again, credit goes to the 10K advisors. So I want to thank them for providing these details. And system admins seem to be always the number one area where people wanting to hire. And the one thing, Stella, that I am struggling, and I talk to fellow CRM, the COE leaders, what is the right number? Do you need 10 administrators for every user, or you need one administrator for every 100 users or every 500 users? So that's, once again, I'm intrigued by the combination. How many administrators are needed? So maybe I want you to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah.
What's your thought in terms of the admin? It's just crazy right now when you see the numbers.
Yeah. One of the things that we also started to notice is there is the Salesforce administration, and then there is the actual system administration. So a lot of the times people combine the two. Yes, there could be people who are admin certified, but when we talk system admins, a lot of the people think, well, I'm admin certified, so I can be a system admin. But we're like, no, there's a total difference. And so one of the things is we educate people to say, you may have a system or Salesforce admin certification, but that doesn't mean that you can get to be a system admin, because there are a lot of policies and things in organizations that should, be respected from a compliance standpoint and from a division of duties and audit and tracking purposes. So that's number one, because a lot of the times people will think that, and they struggle with that, because I've seen people who come from our organization and said, well, I'm a admin certified, and in my old company, I was able to do everything that I wanted to. And we have to educate them to say, well, yes, you're admin certified, but we have separate roles for who could be a system admin doing provisioning and user management and things like that. We cannot just open the doors for everyone. Now, secondly, in terms of that ratio, it's very interesting. I've read a Gartner article a while ago, and I think, if I remember right, they said system admins and Salesforce admins, in a way, kind of, they also mixed it up, but they were saying somewhere around, I think it was like 10 for every 500 to 600 or something like that. So it was tough to use that information, because the question is, who are those users? Are they actively using on the call, like your call center? Are those people that are more operational in the back office? So I don't know if there's a magic answer for that. I would say that look at how your business process is and what the need has been. And if you're seeing there is a growing demand of people, having training issues, wanting to fix more things in the system or enhance the system, then you of course will have to scale the number of Salesforce admins on your team. But if you're seeing that, they are able to manage it, then I would also encourage you to look at ways where you can, build citizen developers, which means you train your business staff to say, okay, here's what a super user looks like. If you get admin certified, these are some of the advantages for you from an understanding standpoint and an application standpoint. So we've addressed it that way. We looked at practically what is the need, and then futuristically, like what does it mean for our business users to become more self-sufficient? And then you just have to, do the math yourself. And so I don't think your answer will be the same for other organizations, because there will be a lot of different variables in the operations of the business.
I hear you. If you see this 746% growth on administrator roles, and as you said, the admins, an admin in an organization means different for each organization, and within an organization there will be multiple types of admins. As
right.
In the place where I work, we have indeed 3 to 4 types of admins. We have a product admins, we have system admins, and these admins are very critical for the company success. And it's not critical for the project or the product that you're running. It's just for the company success. Say they are the one who are really, really watching out what's going on, and they have a lot more power to do what they need to do. They can even mess things up. So this is a pretty important role. And so apparently, if you see this, the slide here, Australia and New Zealand, where the consultant was the most in demand. And so there is 2 things that this particular bullet point says. One is an admin and then the consultant. So in the Salesforce world, a consultant can be an admin can be a consultant. So defining those roles are very challenging, and that needs to be done, right?
Right.
And if you see the second bullet, 3/4 of global demand is in established market, which is rightly so. What I was talking to one of my Salesforce colleagues. Looks like North American market for Salesforce growth is stabilized. It's not. The more demand is in the developing countries. So that seems to be the situation. And I think that information can be validated by looking at Salesforce.com website. When you look at the financial reports, I'm sure we can find that information. Where does the revenue come from? And interestingly, if you see the third one, which I believe that, and I also validated when I was in Dreamforce, in the Salesforce ecosystem, the diversity, male and females are 52%, and then the males are 47 and 1% unidentified. This was a report published by 10K View, and not only they published it, and they validated with Salesforce. Looks like it's a steady combination from the 10K company and then the Salesforce. So that's something interesting. And I don't know whether we really. It's not about caring about the partner ecosystem, but you and I work very closely with the partners. Without partners, we can't. Our success,
right.
Highly depending on the partner ecosystem. Do you see the partners? How are they managing? Do you have any idea? The partners, we compete for resources. And what's your thought on that?
I think one of the things that I've noted with partners is that they have a lot more flexibility to invest and train than what we have as companies. We are so project driven and business priority driven that I have to literally make a case to say, hey, I have this group of people that I can train within Salesforce. They may have a different background, like a Java or something, but I need time, I need resources, I need investment, I need budget. And so there's always a negotiation, whereas our partners seem to be able to be doing that more successfully and efficiently for all the reasons that I just said, because we work in a more business driven organizations, and so we have a different types of KPIs and deliverables that we're accountable for. Whereas the partner ecosystem is, because one of their goals is to build their base, they are able to invest and do that a lot more. The other thing I'm also noticing, and I have asked this when I work with partners, is I ask them, how do you manage COE internally? And it's very interesting that they have also matured. So they have horizontals, if it's industry, driven. They also have verticals if it's industry driven. They have, more like a COE for DevOps type of initiatives. So it's very interesting that they've matured in that. And what happens is when you have some kind of framework and structure like that, it becomes a lot more helpful for the newer people who are learning and training to get embedded in and understand what's going on in other systems, even if they're not actively working. So I think, that's the pro and con eventually. And I think one of the reasons why you're seeing that scale down is because people are starting to build that internal expertise eventually, but it's going to take us some time because we are under a lot of pressure to deliver projects. And so we don't have the time and resources to be set aside to actually train other employees that may be potentially interested in Salesforce. So that's what I'm seeing.
Oh, I hear you. I cannot emphasize more, as you said, in terms of the pressure on delivery managers are so high. And then when one person leaves in the middle of a project, imagine the impact versus, I think that's where we are all faced challenges. So what I've seen or what we are trying to do from our side, how can we work with partners to fill that gap? So when Zen flows. So if you see this one here, the growth of registered company partners slowed down. And I really don't know why it is slowed down, Stella, but it's this was a drastic acceleration from the 9% growth posted from 2019. It's I think it's all the certification. I've seen some people having 20 certification, 25 certifications, and I'm always wondering. There was a survey on LinkedIn. Should we hire LinkedIn certified people? Some people are agreeing, some people are not agreeing. What's your take in terms of AI will be hiring only certified people? What's your comment?
Yeah, this is a debate that can go on. It's like the debate around having pineapple on pizza, is it good or not? So the reason why I say that is education is always interesting topic. Are you using that as an enabler, or you're using that to deprive a valid resource of an opportunity? So there are things that you should consider from, are you doing the right thing from your organizational standpoint in terms of picking up the right candidate for the role? And the second one is, are we unconsciously being biased? And are we not being equitable in our process of hiring because of education as a barrier? And I say education because you could say certification is one thing, a college degree is another thing. The same thing right now, right? People are asking, should I have a college degree to be hired? Well, technically not, but there's a lot of things that your college degree gives you exposure to that helps you in your workplace as well. So I think I would say put the rigor on the interview process rather than using a checkbox on the resume. A lot of those can be very misleading. And so what you will see sometimes is people who have zero experience. I have an example on my own team, would come in, learn and understand and become a high performer and eventually get certified. And the path was slightly different. There are some that I hired and as certified, also did well, and started growing after they came. So I don't know if you can say that certification is necessarily a differentiating factor, but I would rather say and encourage all hiring managers to put the rigor on your interview process. Make sure, and I think we'll talk about it in the segue to our next slide, but make sure to put that rigor on what other things that you can tap into during your interview process, so that you can look at certification as an enabler, not necessarily a differentiating factor.
That's a good perspective. So in the interest of the time, I just take 30 seconds on that. When I hire people, if you don't have certification, I'm okay. As you said, you see whether he or she has got the right experience and the right background, skills, and the qualification. But if I ask the question, would you be interested in getting certification? Would you be interested in taking badges and getting the points and so on? If the person is that, oh, I'm busy, I won't be able to dedicate, that's a signal for me. Easy. It's education is not for just the company's growth; it's for an individual growth. And then having that continuous learning mentality is certainly going to help. So we'll
definitely
talk more on that part. So hiring is it's a very it's a stressful for any time when you are a people leader. You need to hire, and when you hire, you always rely on the recruiting team, or most of the time. And then when you don't expect a recruiter to know about exactly what you're looking for, except that they know your job description. It takes time for them to understand from you. So when we highlighted this, the 4 points: diversity and inclusion, importance of company and hiring manager and branding, culture and hiring process. So what is important in your opinion, if you want to rank this, these 4 things? Are we have something, am I missing, or are we missing something here?
Yeah. Well, ranking is a tough one. I would say, each one has its unique piece of the puzzle. It gives you a holistic approach to who and how you want to hire. So I really think what you want to do is, as I said, be able to have a process that's in place that is more robust. It allows for diversity on your panel. That's one thing that I personally hold myself accountable, is like, do I have diversity on my panel that's interviewing the candidate from the traditional forms of diversity versus diversity in roles, diversity in thinking, so on and so forth. The other thing is also that, we, especially, Velu and I working in healthcare organizations, and some of us are mission driven. It's all about service. So, people need to understand that mission and purpose, are very important in that process. And so being able to highlight that is important. Now, what I will say and highlight, I think what you're seeing with the newer generations, like the Gen Zs, maybe even a little bit of the millennials, are they looking for, what does your brand look like? And I think that's where you said, the importance of the company. Some of them are asking about sustainability. Are you going to be net zero at some point in the future? Some people are asking, what is your community involvement? Are you proactive in addressing social issues within your community? So there are a lot of those things that, because of the recent activity with the pandemic, the social unrest, the conflicts that you're seeing in the global picture, are all coming into consideration when people are choosing where they want to go. And of course, with the Great Resignation, you can tell that they have the negotiating power right now, because the market is more leaning towards a seeker versus a hiring manager. And so we have to be very relevant. We have to be considerate, and we have to be authentic in what we are doing. Don't do it for the sake of checking the box, but do it because it's the right thing to do. That it's going to mean the right thing, both for the candidate or whoever you're hiring versus, and also your current team and the organization. So I think, it's like I said, again, put the rigor on your interview process. Also look at who your high performer is, because a lot of the times, especially when you think of diversity and inclusion, you have diverse candidates that bring other skill sets, that are not in your definition of a high performer. And so what you do is you automatically or unconsciously remove them from the list, and you don't account for all the other things that they bring to the table but are not in your quote unquote definition of a high performer.
I agree with you on that. And so one of the things that I have noticed, Stella, I thought I would I've been hiring personally quite a few people. And so when we when we start the hiring process, I just talk to I am the first one to talk to the candidate. I don't let recruiter sets up the time, scheduling with me, and that's it. And I don't want anybody to talk to the candidate before I talk to the candidate. The reason I speak to the candidate is for one thing. I want to make sure that the candidate understands what he or she is getting into. A lot of time, we don't spend time in explaining to the candidate what is the role, how does this company work, and in your team, what does that person do? What do other people do? What is an opportunity to grow? I don't ask any interview questions in the background or anything. I just look at the resume. I said, okay, here is the reason why we are hiring. If you are interested, then let's talk about your background.
Right.
Yes, I understand. Oftentimes what happens is, oh, tell me about yourself. I have only 30 minutes. And then I take a decision or make a decision to go to the next level or say, this is not a good person. Or, oh man, I don't have anybody in my pipeline. This person is looking good, talking okay. Let's go ahead and hire him. So that's a pretty big, expensive resource that you are bringing somebody. And it's going to affect your team morale if you bring the wrong person.
Absolutely.
So I have been doing this for last maybe 10 years. I am the first one to talk to the candidate if it is.
Great point.
Yeah. So that's something it's been working out really well for me.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. And I do the same thing too. I'm the first one to do. And I also encourage, others who are listening and are looking for a job. I call it like a 60-40 or 80-20, where you are looking for things that the company needs and what you can offer, but you're also personally looking for what you need and what the company can offer. So the interview is a two-way process, and it's such an important topic, Velu, that you brought up is, whoever, wherever you are in your journey, make sure that if you are switching a role, that you spend enough time in understanding that role and understanding why you are being hired. And it has to be a good match both ways, where you're offering to the company, but also you're expecting the company to offer you opportunities to grow. So definitely a good point.
Oh, yeah, thank you. No, I think we both are thinking the same level in terms of your success comes as a hiring manager only when the person who is going to be working your team is highly successful. When I say successful, they should be able to do their tasks when they wake up. They should not be struggling. What should I be doing today? Where am I going? Why did I join? How does this company work? If they start asking that question, that means we all failed as a hiring manager.
Yeah, definitely.
And then another thing that I have noticed when I was, so my background, I created an app in Salesforce. It is still there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's called Recruiting Platform as a Service. I just wanted to share. I don't know why. So we did a research with the Northwestern couple of professors. So we came up with an approach. This is kind of I'm going to make it bold. A lot of times the hiring managers, they kind of, if you give them the resume, especially in the recruiting industry, like it's a very challenging for recruiters to work with hiring managers, and vice versa. The hiring managers don't tell the truth, or they hide the truth, or partially tell the truth, and the recruiters say the same thing, and then they don't understand the hiring process well enough from both sides. Oh, you would have. So the way this app that we created, it's called Sourcing Qualification interviewing and onboarding. So there's 4 steps. So one thing that when we did the research, how many times the hiring in a very unclear hiring process makes a lot of people mad. They don't even show up for an interview sometimes. I don't know whether you faced it. I have faced it in the companies that because you have so many people that you need them to talk to an admin level, right? Maybe an entry level. Why would you need 10 people to speak to them? Because the company has that process. So one of the things that I noticed that we did some research. So this app is all about eliminating that hiring process and the complex hiring process into a simplified hiring process. So anyway, I thought I would share with the audience here. All right. So the next part is the training. Yesterday, I was talking to someone in my team. Oh, I want to go for an MBA. Would you sponsor? Okay, it's great, but the role is admin. MBA is great. There is nothing wrong. But what is the relevance for the one that we are doing? And am I going to pay for an MBA? Yes, the company is going to pay for it, but will I approve it? Is it relevant? I don't know. That's like a dilemma, right? We always say hey, we have enough money. Every year, big companies have money to pay a certain amount of money. Is that relevant for you? So that is one thing that I'm facing. I would like to get your thoughts on it. And then mentoring also. How does mentoring look like and what do we need to do? So give us your thoughts in terms of mentoring and the relevance in higher training people.
Absolutely. Mentoring is very important, both for the mentor and the mentee. I think a lot of the times we think it's only for people seeking mentorship, but actually people who are mentoring also gain a lot from that relationship. So it's always important to remember that and go into that mentoring relationship that way. Now, what I've seen is that people who seek for those mentorship opportunities are a lot more self-motivated, engaged, and productive employees because they find the value in connecting. They find the value in understanding the things that they don't know. And they also find the value in just building that trust and relationship within the team members or even outside of the team. So what I've seen is people who seek those opportunities are those that are those self-motivators and want to do more and learn more. And we've had, great mentors on our team that have set a really good example that people are like, I want to do what this person did. I want to get certified like how he did. I see that he has gone through this path and it seems like the right thing for me to do. The other thing is that's also important is that in today's world where everything is so fluid, that mentorship relationship is also going to help a lot to keep the team together. When you have strong mentors that are on the team, or even if it's within the organization, it just helps you to build that strong bond. And I think that I always say that bonding is very, very important in that mentorship relationship. And if it's within your team or even within the organization, that bond helps to keep you within the organization. The last thing I will say about mentorship is that you, in a way, whoever is mentoring becomes an advocate for the mentee. So if you are mentoring somebody, you are in a way signing up for being their advocate. And what that means is when there are opportunities, when you having access to other things, know about things that maybe this person would be, a good fit, you kind of have that obligation to share and advocate about that particular person. And so I think it's going to be critical that we remember whichever role you are, whether you're receiving mentorship or giving mentorship, that one, you're bonding with that person. Two, you're finding ways to add value on both ends. And then three, depending on which role you're playing, that you advocate for that person. In terms of the relevance, that's an interesting one. Here's where I think as leaders, we have an obligation to not just invest in the now, but invest in the future. I have had people ask me questions like, you're talking MBA, even for certifications, the question becomes, well, this person is like so interested in so many certifications. What if you pay for all the certifications and then he leaves the organization? My answer to that is, my responsibility as a leader is to give them ample opportunities to train, empower them, and give them opportunities to grow within the organization along with the right environment and the right culture. Now, having said that, if they still want to leave the organization, then that's totally okay. I'm not here to say that I'm not going to pay for the certification because that's an investment that I'll make. And then what if they leave? So on and so forth. At the end of the day, I think we're all humans. I totally respect, and I tell my team, wherever you are, I will continue to cheer for you. It'll be great if you're on the same team as I am, but wherever you go, I would have, invested in some part of your journey, and that's enough for me. So I think it's important to keep that perspective, is that when you train them, yes, you want to train them to become valuable to your company, but you're also making them marketable in general, and that's okay. That's totally fine. And then in terms of the future, there are those relevance factors, is to say, okay, now what if this person wants to get into security? Is there like a intersection of security and Salesforce? What if this person wants to be a leadership? Is there a leadership and Salesforce intersection? So you have to talk about the goals and then talk about the organizational needs. If there is I use SWOT analysis as a tool. That's one thing that I do with all my team members. And my first one-on-ones is we do a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threat analysis. So strengths and weakness are being internal, opportunities and threats are external. So we do that analysis to say, okay, what do you see as your strengths and what do you see as opportunities? If there is a match, then let's help you grow in that, and we set up goals. And if MBA is one way you get to that goal of being that next level, so be it, and we will sponsor it. But there should be that analysis and intentionality around that why behind what you want to do.
I totally agree with you. And that's exactly what I was talking to the same person. Yes. MBA is always, if you really think that's what your passion is, that's okay. But there is a fundamental fulfillment of your role, which is, if you're an admin, you need to be good in what you're doing. If you are committing to an MBA, it's your choice, and there is nothing, I encourage you because that's what you want to do. But if you are compromising in your learning the admin level and performing, then I have to think about, see whether this is making sense for the team.
Mm-hmm.
And because then it is going to affect other people if your performance is being affected. Another thing you said very a good point on mentoring. So, and Salesforce has a very good mentoring services for entry level people. I think I don't know about for an experienced level people. So there is a Salesforce mentoring. If you go to the trailhead, you can choose to become a mentee. So they choose a match mentor and give it to you, and then they give you the guidelines. What I personally think every organization who is putting together a mentoring program for the employees, especially the Salesforce, we are talking about CRM. So we'll be specific with CRM. They need to make sure, at least they need to have a framework. They need to have guidelines. It's not about I give mentoring the way I like to give mentoring, which is the execution you can do however you want to execute. But the framework should be consistent for the employees, your team. And so that is something that I am in the process of putting together. It's always a bandwidth issue. How much can you do? And one thing that I always believe in, if education is expensive, what about the ignorance? Having somebody on your team without any education or certification or knowledge, and they're going to build your system, no, it's not going to work. So innovation that it brings, it's overused word. Sometimes it's underused. So what's your thought on in terms of training and innovation? Where is the connection?
Yeah, I think innovation, I see it as a mindset. It's about bringing in and allowing new ideas so that you're increasing the value to the community, to the organization, to your customer, whichever way you want to see it.
Mhm.
I think what is going to be important is when you train, you're also training for that growth mindset. What is important is that you're telling them that yes, you're training them from a Salesforce admin standpoint, or you're training them to be in this role, but you're also looking at them as someone who is going to come and be able to have that perspective on, hey, here's the gaps, here's ways we can improve, and here's why we should be doing it. A lot of the times we think of the cost of doing it, but as you just said, what is the cost of not doing that? It's going to be really important that when we train, and tell them, hey, I'm going to be investing in this. A good example is conferences. We have a training budget that covers for conferences, and my ask is, great, I'll give you the conference budget, but I would be looking for you to come back with at least one idea that you can actually take end to end and deliver and say, here's what I learned from the conference. This is a small POC I would like to build, and let's play it out. If you do not do that, then there's not much value for that training. So that's, I see as a connection between training and innovation, is you have to be very clear in that expectation that you're going to invest in it, but you're also going to look for outcomes from those team members.
Great point. Thank you for clarifying that. Now I think I'm going to put some pressure on my team now. So another thing, I know we are also getting close on to the time. So consistency and commitment, something that I wanted to share here, Stella. There are people out there, if they want to look for a new job, they get certified very quickly. You see, suddenly there are series of certifications coming in, and then say, okay, either give me more money or I'm leaving. This happened to me, so I just wanted to share.
Mm-hmm.
But some people, I want to be certified. I want to go get a lot of badges and the points. But then after next 6 months, they don't do anything. And in my opinion, that's kind of you want to go lose weight, you go to gym for 3 months, and then next 2 years, you don't even look at gym. So similarly, this is a consistency in terms of training. So the company needs to pay attention to their employees or the teams and make sure the company is consistently investing in training. And then individual is taking the commit, or they're committing to their own consistent learning. It's a continuous learning. It's in the Salesforce world, because if you don't like it, whether you like it or not, Salesforce is releasing 3 times a year, or any other cloud platform, they're doing the same thing. So if you're not learning consistently, it's a challenge. So let's move to the next topic. Yep, we hired them, we gave them the career, we gave them the mentor. That's a kind of a rude statement. I shouldn't say we gave them their career. People come in, they learn, they do all the great things, they're marketable. Now, always whether the one of the challenging parts for the leaders, how do you retain them? If, oh boy, this person, if he leaves the project, he's going to be in trouble. Because we all have a limited time, limited resources, and we just have to manage within our resource pool that we have, or the people that we have. I shouldn't say a resource. That sounds pretty not
businessy.
So retaining people is the challenge. And when you look at these 4 points, what comes to your mind as the top of the pyramid?
I would say connect to purpose. I think for me personally, purpose trumps performance. I say that in the sense that if someone who is truly connected to a purpose, I can train them on other things. They know I can tell them how to do the work. But if they're not connected to the purpose of the why behind what we are doing, then you run into a lot of conflicts, because the framework and the mindset is going to be very different. So I would say one of the important things as leaders that we should be doing every day, every time we meet, is focus on the why, connect your teams to the purpose. This is even more critical for people in the technical spaces, because we're so down and under in our zone, doing the things in this one table, this one system, this one profile. And then you forget that, hey, I'm here to save lives. I'm here to make life easy for my frontline staff. I'm here to reduce the wastage in this company. I'm here to help improve the experience for the customers. So you need to be able to connect those whys. And when you do that, and when you see that, that becomes a strong, I would say, factor in employees wanting to stay. Now, yes, there are other things that, they're always looking at what other pastures are greener, what other people are offering. But I would say that the top thing that leaders, I would encourage, if you're not doing, to do it more and more, is to continuously reinforce the message on why you're doing what you're doing and connect your teams to that purpose.
Oh, I hear you. I hear you. I think it's why is so important. I mean, and also retention. A lot of times, you don't leave the company, you leave the manager that you work for. And that's right. So that's, we all know, if you have the manager who does not understand there are two types when I look at the competent leadership, especially in the CRM ecosystem. So when I see the competent leadership, the ecosystem, especially in the CRM space, let's say you and I are on Salesforce, it's just vast. It's becoming so big. They call it what, $2 trillion economy, or whatever the $1 trillion economy that we are talking about. This ecosystem is so big, and if the leadership don't understand the capabilities of the ecosystem or the platform and understand the dynamics of the platform, when I've seen, I was a consultant, and when I could tell the companies, oh, the market is hard. What do you mean by market is hard? Unemployment is 10%. Now today, unemployment is, I just saw today, the report is 3.8%.
Right. Yep.
Imagine if you don't have a competent leadership, they don't understand the ecosystem. At the end of the day, yes, the competent leadership is there are two components. One, overall leadership, the empathy, and and understanding the purpose of the company, making sure that the good business acumen and the global outlook and blah blah blah. There are so many competencies we are talking about. I think, in my opinion, specifically what I want to highlight to the audience is the competent leadership in terms of understanding the CRM ecosystem. Because you may understand everything else, but if you don't understand the either it's a Salesforce, any other CRM, and you are the leader for that particular product line, I think it's going to hurt the company and the team. Do you agree?
Absolutely. 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 You have to be there connecting the dots. Why is it important for you to build this particular workflow? Why is it important for you to write that trigger? Focus on how it impacts your end user. And that's one of the reasons, we do the Scaled Agile framework in our organization. And one of the nice things about it is you're focusing on what are the business outcomes of that feature. You are talking about acceptance criteria. You're talking about business value. So you're connecting pretty much every feature that you do within your CRM system to the end goal, which is the outcome to your customer. And so, yes, I completely agree. Without that, there's not much value in what you're doing and the thousands of lines of code that you write or the applications that you're configuring if you don't understand how it's impacting your business at the end of the day.
I hear you. So, and then we certainly can talk about unconscious bias, which we all work with people whom we like, whom, if you say yes to me, that means you are good performers. If you're challenging me, you're kind of irritating me. So we go in that kind of mindset. And I'm always challenged with this particular point, unconscious bias. Sometimes knowingly, unknowingly, we all have that thing implanted in our mind. So how do you overcome that challenge? And just curious about understanding your leadership ability to come out of that.
Yeah, I think one of the ways you retain is, by promoting also. And you do performance evaluations every year, and you're providing feedback every week if you have one-on-ones in a healthy and efficient way. I think what is going to be important is that you know where you stand. If you're conscious of your biases, then you will not let it become an unconscious bias, is my point. So always be very aware of, okay, I know I've had these challenges with this person. I know that I've always challenged this person in this particular thing, but hey, he overcame that in the next project. So you need to be able to say that it's over.
It's
You
over.
challenged him, you trained him, you coached him, he's gone over it. Now, the next time you are going to have a conversation about, is this the right opportunity? Your mind cannot go to the past where he still had that problem, but it has to go to the place where he overcame that problem. So I think one is being completely self-aware of what are the things that you know are going to play in, whether for the good or for the bad in that conversation. And then number two, use facts. Be very objective in your thinking to say, how has it been today? What you don't want is to bring baggage from 3 years ago or a conflict that you had 2 years ago, when today it's not there and the person has improved or the person has outgrown of that. So I think what I will say is, and I have a list of things that I write down, especially when I go into my one-on-ones or when I want to give proactive feedback or constructive feedback, is I make an intentional list of things that I do not want to touch upon, because when you touch upon that, then you also lose the trust with your team, because you say, okay, in this project a long time ago, I made this mistake and it's still being held against me. So I think I would encourage everyone to be self-aware. That's the emotional intelligence part of it, is be very much aware of what are some of your quick responses that you go to when you think of your team member, and then reevaluate that and say, okay, he's improved in that space, so I really can't bring that up in my conversation, or I really can't talk about it because he's shown me that it's not a problem anymore. So that would be my 2 cents, I guess.
Very good. No, that's an excellent point. And you just because it happened in the past, you don't want to be thinking that now and the future. You
Yes.
come to a conscious decision that this is done, behavior is done. I mean, it changed, and you accept the change and then move on. So it's a very interesting. I wouldn't call it interesting. It's a very important point for all the leaders to understand, to retain the right people in your team. People do make mistakes. We make mistakes,
Right.
And if you make mistakes, you acknowledge it, embrace it, and then change the behavior and move on.
Yep.
Okay, good. So, but this is interesting. We are only having 3 minutes here, so
Okay.
to grow with it. So the career path is very important, and the biggest challenge that I see, Stella, in the market, even the companies that the Salesforce world, an admin can be a developer can be a consultant can be a BA, a tester can be something. So this is the reality, not the reality, that skill sets are transferable. So this fits in your agile world as well, because in agile, extreme programming, and all the different types of agile world, the skills can be interchanged. But if in the reality, companies always challenged, oh, you are an admin. You shouldn't be doing BA, especially in the large companies. Oh, you're an admin, you start writing stories. Why are you doing that? You're not supposed to be doing that. I have a BA for that role.
Yeah.
And oftentimes people, I'm an admin, I'm a developer. And so then what would you do if you're a developer? You want to start showing your development skills rather than understanding, because if your appetite for writing code, it becomes more and more because you are put in a box. So I really do not know how companies overcome that challenge, especially the large organization. I work for a very large, and you are working for a large company.
Right.
So we need to do that. So same thing with the success metrics for growth. When people say, I have done this. When you read sometimes the performance reviews, I'm a hardworking person. I'm always available on weekends, evenings. No, that's not metrics. That's your character, which is important. Your attitude is important. But what is that you measure other than your attitude and behavior? Of course, the compensation, the diversity and inclusion. If in your experience, if you were to summarize this, to grow the people within the company and promote them to the next level, so they make the difference, and then we can the grow within is a sort of promotion. If you don't promote and if you don't give the opportunity, people are going to leave. It's all
Yeah.
interlinked. So how do you
Yeah.
summarize this topic, Stella?
Yeah, absolutely. I think from a leader perspective, I would say it should be a success metrics for your leader. How much you are able to invest and grow your team should directly be translated as your success as a leader. A leader is more successful when your team is successfully growing and improving. So that's number one. From a leader perspective, it is extremely critical that you pay attention to that individual growth across all your team members. In terms of how do you look at this holistically, I would say I'm a very strengths driven person. So I always go to my team and I try to drill down on their strengths. I try to help them reflect and grow their strengths or improve their strengths. So where I come in is to say, match that strength to what the business needs and find ways that I can show that strength in different areas. And I think career path is an interesting thing, as you just said, is people are expected to scrum around the work. You may be super talented as a developer, but on one night when we're all in the room, we need a QA. A developer should roll up the sleeves and do the QA work, because at that time that's value. So I think it's going to be on an individual basis. I don't think there's going to be a one size fits all, depending on what roles, what goals that the individual has, and where the organization wants to move. There has to be a happy medium. And I think that leaders play a very important role in mixing and matching and putting that puzzle together, so that it brings clarity to you, saying, what can I do to make my team's lives better? And you are the biggest cheerleader for your team, so what can you do to promote them on a larger stage? And then it also becomes clear for the team members, saying, okay, here's my path, here's what my leader has to offer. Is this what I want to do, or is there something? And it's okay, sometimes you may not be able to solve all problems, you may not be able to give everything your team member needs, and that's totally okay if they want to leave or find something else. But it's going to be very important to gain that clarity, both from the leader perspective, the organization perspective, and the individual team member perspective.
You summarized it really well, and I think one of the important points that I really liked, spending time with your team, whether it's a leader of your team or an individual, and helping them to understand their strength. Oftentimes, we always look for the other side. Okay, why the things that they don't do well? There are many things people do really well, but our human mind is always, if they make one mistake, our mind is fixated on the mistake. So growing the people, understanding their strength, helping them to grow is very important. Thank you for sharing that. And obviously, one thing that I wanted to point the compensation. The great resignation is a big challenge. And I think when you have a 3.8% in the unemployment space right now,
right,
it's just even going to be more. And I was several years ago, reminds me that I was with a client in Cincinnati, very, very large global multinational client. The person I was talking to them, it's primarily the Salesforce work that we were trying to do for them. He was telling me, I was asking, generally talking, and then it's a tri-state area, they call it Ohio and Tennessee, and especially in Cincinnati, there are a few states. I think 2 states I know that connect, and he said one more state. I don't know which state it is. That tri-state area, that unemployment is negative. So people
Wow.
do more than one job to support the ecosystem. That's what he was
Right.
talking about. So anyway, the compensation is something that we should not ignore as people leaders.
Absolutely.
Because especially when the newer people come in with the higher salary, the people who are there for some time, they don't get to up to the level that the new people
Yep.
get. So as leaders, we should look at and do the adjustment, adjustment. I think when you and I had a conversation this morning, equity or equitable, right?
Yep.
So that's something that
Yeah,
we.
you want to be competitive with the market, which means you want to say that your organization is paying competitively with other organizations. So that's competitiveness, which is external. You also want to be equitable internal, which means you're saying, okay, I have my team members, whether it's a newer employee or existing employees, am I equitable? Are there too much variations? Are there too many discrepancies in that pay? And it's important as a leader from an integrity standpoint to stay clear and intentional on maintaining that equity. So yeah, I see that two ways: competitiveness external with your market, equity internal within your own team.
Very good. Thank you so much. So it is time. It's a 4:05, in fact, 5 minutes over. First, I wanted, Stella, thank you so much for joining today. And those who are watching this video are going to be watching this video. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Stella directly. She's on LinkedIn. And I'm on LinkedIn as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. And this is a big topic. And it's not 1 hour topic. This is probably a conference for 5 days that we can put together on each topic for a day and talk about it. And I wish everybody the best in hiring the right people, training them, retaining them, and growing them. The more retention is the most challenging part than the hiring. So it's at the same time, giving them the opportunity to grow within the companies is another big challenge. So certainly, I wish everybody the best. And Stella, thank you joining.
Yeah.
And any closing comments, Stella?
Yeah, thank you, Velu, for inviting me, and I echo everything that Velu just said. I wish everyone the best. Stay strong, stay positive, and be kind.
Very good. Thank you so much. Have a good day, everyone.
Yeah, have a good one.